Hello everyone, this is the Osaka Makers Space. It's the first one in Osaka. Osaka Makers Space is a cooperative learning center where people come and they teach what they know and they learn from other people. We do a lot of electronics, but the idea is actually that we can make almost anything. If you look to my left, we have a woodworking shop and we have a metalworking shop in the back there. And further in, we have the electronics and all of our craft gear. Come on in, show you around. A lot of our stuff in the makerspace is being made here, like our cabinets, our tables, or our workstations. And of course, I made them here. We have a lot of tools that we deal with wood and metal. We have our crosscut saws and our sanders and our jigsaws. We have 2 jigsaws. 2 side grinders. We have all sorts of things that we make by ourselves. Like this is a spot welder that was made from an old broken microwave. So inside this is the guts of an old microwave. We took the parts out, we rewired them, and we added a small Arduino computer up front to run the menu. And this is the kind of thing we do. It's kind of like upcycling. This menu helps us a lot in a lot of ways. There's a temperature control to make sure the components don't melt. And we can modify 50 millisecond or 100 millisecond kind of welds. It's mostly good for sheet metal, but strong enough that we can actually kind of weld 2 nails together or something that thick together. And we're constantly making new stuff and kind of modifying it to make it work better. One of my hobbies, of course, is also metalworking, where I make chainmail. And I was just showing a fella how to make a 4-in-1 unit using just simple wire and a few bits and bobs that we kind of made here. And that's also what the makerspace is about. You can make anything. You just try to imagine something. You take something old, you make something new out of it. You might call it upcycling, or you might call it just reuse. But there's a lot of things you can make just with your imagination. Rewire, learn a few electronics, learn a little bit of woodworking, and you can do anything almost. So the people who come here are hobbyists and DIY people, especially in Osaka, especially in Japan. Space is a premium, so if you want to do something like, I don't know, make some shells for yourself, it's rather hard to do, and it's rather hard to have the kind of equipment you need to cut wood or do models. Modeling is very, very popular in Japan, but in apartments, you can't really have the space to do all the painting and the chemicals. Those kinds of things you can do here, and you can make a mess, and we'll clean it up later. But a lot of our clients are people who want to make stuff open source, with open source electronics like the Arduino or the Raspberry Pi computers. And you can use those as very, very simple controllers in a device like this, or you can make things as complicated as a 3D printer or a CNC cutting tool that can cut shapes out of materials like wood or plastic or aluminum. And we have a CNC and we have a 3D printer in the other room, and let's go into that area. This is a tabletop CNC. And it works on basically a hand router. Now, our friend John made it. And basically, we go to the electronics store, and the hardware store, of course, and we bought some tubing and some belts to drive the motors on. But most of these components, all the yellow, the blue, and the red components here, were made with the Ultimaker, which is a 3D printer. So we use the 3D printer to make a CNC. And pretty soon we're going to upgrade our 3D printer with our 3D printer, which is kind of funny. It's a lot of fun, really. And actually, very, very soon, we're also going to upgrade our CNC by using the CNC to cut aluminum components to replace the plastic components we made with our 3D printer. And when that happens, we can use much harder materials to cut out of. Like we can upgrade to steel or copper alloys like bronze and brass, which this can do, but not very well. This one's very good for with wood. This is, of course, it's just a normal controller. Pretty soon, we're going to have an event, and our event is actually going to be mini BattleBots. Kind of like the show, but we're going to make BattleBots with a maximum of 200 grams. And so right now, our friend is taking apart a controller like this, and he's going to reuse the parts. In here, there's lots of switches, lots of buttons, and you can use those in different ways. So he's going to make a controller for his BattleBot using the switches he pulled out of an old, I think this is a PlayStation 2 Sony controller. It's reusing old bits and pieces that you have lying around, maybe you're not using, and you make them in different ways. Maybe 3D print a body, and then you can make a robot, you can make a drone. This drone up here on the wall, for example, the body is made of from a 3D printer, and the motors were either bought or pulled off of other things that we found. Finding something and making something new. It's a real fun thing to do. So if you're getting into electronics and you don't want to actually go out and buy 1,000 tools, one of the good things about a makerspace is you come in and you use our tools. Of course, we have soldering irons aplenty, and of course we also have a few devices for removing solder, and of course all the electronic components that require things like this. But we have a lot of tools in our drawers and in our organizers right now that aren't on display, but this kind of is a good example. And what we're doing is we're actually building tools, more and more tools with the tools that we have that our clients can come in and our guests can use. For example, we have a bench power supply that we made in the woodworking section, and here, let's look at that real quick. So this is a bench power supply. Of course, we used wood that was kind of left over from making the window frames of our workshop. And this is Japanese sugi, suji, which is Japanese false cypress or cedar. And it smells very, very good. But what we made out of it is a bench power supply. The cord was ripped off of an old printer, and the power supply for the power supply in there, right there, is basically from the old printer. And this provides power for prototyping electronics. So we can plug it in and turn it on, and we can then provide, over here, and we can then provide a variable amount of voltage to your project. Right here, there we go. We can up to 30 or 40 volts, which is way enough for most small-scale electronic programs. And we can test your electronic device to see its tolerances. So for example, maybe your Arduino only takes up to about 8 volts, and then your LEDs take 2 or 3 volts each. You can kind of figure out how much voltage it needs and how much voltage it can stand with something like this, a bench power supply made in our makerspace for our makers to make something else. It's kind of a fun and easy project that adds value to a space like this. We can make more and more tools that you can use. So Osaka Makerspace, we do a few things. One is we sell memberships. We have a monthly membership rate, and then we have ticket members that come in when you're doing a project, but it's a long-term project. The monthly members are kind of hardcore users. They come in quite often. And we also have an hourly rate. But occasionally we also have lessons that we teach. We're going to be teaching electronic lessons, lessons on leatherworking, lessons on metalworking. I'll be doing a lesson on chainmail very, very soon, so you can learn how to make some medieval chainmail and you know, have a lot of fun making your own project, making your own stuff, something that you can use, something that you can keep, and something that will add value to your life. Anyway, thanks a lot. See you later.